Welcome to Cape Fear Business Roundtable. I'm Frank Williams, and today we have CJ Jones with Southern Moving and Storage with us. Welcome, CJ.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining
Thank you
us.
for having me.
And before we dive in, I do want to mention our two sponsors, which are two brand building partners located under the same roof. One is Pioneer Strategies, which can help with website design, graphic design, social media marketing, digital advertising, or traditional PR. The sister company is Pioneer Specialties, a promotional products company, and Pioneer Specialties has access to over 1 million products from 4,300 suppliers across the globe. So they can help you find products you don't even know to look for, and they'll handle the whole process so you don't have to worry about it. And with that, we'll jump on in. CJ, thank you again for joining us. I appreciate you taking the time out today. And obviously, we live in a fast-growing part of North Carolina, and I think everybody from every other state's moving here, which is certainly good for your business.
Yes.
If you're a moving company, but tell us a little bit about yourself. Are you originally from here, or if not, where did you move from? And a little bit of background on how you got here and wound up in this area.
Well, I'm originally born and raised in Philadelphia. Uh, the South Philly and Mount Airy areas of the city is where my family was from. So a lot of port workers, dock workers, union workers. I'm the son of a union worker. It's where I kind of got the blue collar mentality from. After the passing of my father in 2006, my mother, she moved to an area of North Carolina called Fayetteville, specifically Hope Mills. Nice retirement area, really beautiful. I proceeded down in 2013 and I continued my job in moving. I've moved for a lot of different companies, nationwide, local. I've even had my own moving business at one point, freelance, and things really began to take off, and I really started to understand the business aspect when I moved to North Carolina. I wound up here in Wilmington. I started out actually when I was a mover with another company that's based here out of Wilmington. Due to physical things, I'm 44. I wasn't able to perform the moving duties anymore, and I got a suggestion from a friend to reach out to Macon Bullard at Southern Moving and Storage, and I tell you, it's one of the best conversations I've ever had. It started my second career. I had a great career as a mover. I like to think I was a passionate and good mover, and now bringing that into estimations has been awesome.
And yeah, the older we get, the less we can do with things like moving
Ooh,
boxes.
yeah, my mind is like I can still get out there, but my body objects.
We still think we're 25 sometimes. And,
Yeah.
I've only been to Philadelphia once, and I don't know if this is good or bad, but I ate 7 Philly cheesesteaks in 4 days.
Ooh, gracious.
But I'm guessing you're an Eagles fan.
Die hard, go Birds.
And I did not grow up an Eagles fan, but I was rooting for them this year. I like the team they had this year, so I was pleased to see that. Well, obviously you've been in this part of the state a few years. What is your favorite non-work related thing that you like to do when you're not working in this part of the state, or place to go, or thing to see?
Non-work related thing I like to do is I'm a bit of a foodie, so I like to go on food tours. Me and my wife, we try different places. Maybe we will look up different restaurant spots that are within about 100 to 200 miles, or we'll see like a food review done by an NC food reviewer, and we'll go out to the restaurant, or I'll try different recipes and things like that. So definitely, I think North Carolina has a very underrated food scene.
Absolutely.
If you, especially going into here in Eastern Carolina, going into the Charlotte area, our version of barbecue, and I say our because I'm a North Carolinian now. I went back up to Philly a while back, and I was ready to get my tail back home.
Well,
And
we've got a great place to live.
yeah, it is, and the food scene here is very underrated because you have people coming from so many different parts, and they're kind of putting their own kind of spin on the food scene. It's really cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of good restaurants here. One of my favorites right here in Leland is New Day Cafe.
Yes.
Little hole in the wall, but you would, if you drove by it, you wouldn't catch your eye from the outside, but once you go inside and taste it, you know that it's not just any little hole in the wall, and they've got a good thing going. And I'm a foodie as well. I'm not going to say I'm a professional foodie, but I can I can go on vacation and do 80 things, but the one thing I'll remember is where I
What
ate.
you ate? Yes, absolutely.
Where I ate, whether or not I liked it, and I will go back to the same restaurant 20 years later if I'm in the same town again
Yes,
because I'm that guy.
yes, absolutely.
Well, tell us a little more about your career journey. You touched on that a little bit, but anything else you want to share about how you went from starting out and moving to where you are now?
Well, I have over 800,000 miles clocked as a mover.
Wow.
I've completed over 1,000 jobs. I have seen every state in this country. I started out as just a passenger or a number two guy where I rode around. I helped offload. I did this for bigger. I started out with the bigger tractor trailers. And it's really how I learned how to move, where back in the day, the drivers didn't move. You had to get out and you had to do the offloading. And we're talking, 30, 40,000 pounds, boxes as far as the eye could see, and you had a time limit, and while the money was great, I mean, it was very physically demanding. So when
I
I
believe it.
went down to the smaller trucks, it made life a little easier, but I had to learn things like loading and unloading, and customer service, dealing with the people, and it really turned into something that I loved. It was a job, and once I began the process of being able to deal with the people and hearing people's stories and seeing people in so many different transitions of life, that's when I say, yeah, this is what I'm going to be doing for a long time.
Well, it's easy to underestimate the value people place on the things that you're moving for them, and but you can be moving some very sentimental things, some things that may have been in somebody's family for 3 or 4 generations, or something that's just a very prized possession, and it may not look like much to me, but to that person, it's a big deal.
Absolutely. And I have an emphasis on when I do estimates with customers. I ask them, are there any key things? Are there any things that maybe not monetarily, but are important to you? And the reason I do that is I want them to understand I get it.
Right.
There's a statistic that says 80% of our adult lives is spent in our homes. So that makes our furniture that much more valuable. I mean, it's where our memories are made. So I try to take into consideration and show my clients that, your stuff is important to me. This is about more than just
Yes.
me wanting to get your business. It's about more than just getting an estimate out. This is my passion. This is what I love to do. So.
I'm assuming you've probably seen some unique and strange things when you were moving as well. Tell us about something off the wall that you saw.
Well, the things that I can talk about in the daytime, because I've seen,
Nothing that is going to get anybody put in jail or
yeah,
anything or embarrassing.
I've seen a lot of stuff, but the wildest thing I've seen, it was a guy. He was a furniture maker, and he made his own custom chairs.
Wow.
And he had an order that we went out to fill that we delivered for him, and this customer specifically wanted chairs that were shaped like hands. Yeah.
Interesting.
And so he has these hand chairs, and some of them were big hands with cushions. Other of them were like framed shapes of his hand that he did multiple versions of. And apparently, hand chairs were very popular because he was selling a lot of these. Yeah,
Interesting.
hand chairs. So
When you go to an antique store, you see things that you wonder, why did someone make that in the first place? But somebody bought it somewhere along the way.
somebody purchased it. Yeah.
Exactly. You mentioned that you're an estimator now. Tell us a little bit about what you do and who you want to work with and who should contact you and how you can help them.
I look to work with anyone that's looking to move. Obviously, real estate agents are huge. Realtors are huge. For me, getting in front of them and seeing how I can help and assist them. Anybody that's thinking about buying or selling their home, I would say that part of the process, along with hiring a realtor, is get an estimate done on the items that you have in your house. And the reason why is because it's just one less thing to have to worry about on the back end. And the good thing about an estimate is it doesn't change. It doesn't vary. I'm I'm not sure how any of my competitors do it, but we don't have a pricing difference for weekends or nights or if I come out in June and you decide, hey, I'm not probably going to pull the trigger till August, there's not going to all of a sudden be a hidden fee. So getting ahead of the game and getting an estimate done will really help to probably save you money, especially if you're planning this thing months out.
which hopefully people will do. I mean, although I know we sold a family home a few years ago and we really hadn't planned it. We put it on the market and we're not expecting it to be under contract 2 days later, and it was.
Yeah.
And we suddenly had to scramble, but we thankfully had Facebook Marketplace help us out a lot with getting rid of stuff, but that's a different story. Yeah, tell us. Obviously, I know you've got a networking group you started on Facebook. Tell us a little bit about that and why you started that and why networking is important to you and how you go about that.
Yes, the Cape Fear Business Networking Collective, plug there, is a networking group that came about simply because I saw the need for it. I'm a member of some other networking groups in the area, and what I was seeing was a lot of spam, a lot of like scammers and things of that nature, no real admin team in place. And I just thought to myself, well, if I don't like it, just make my own group. I know enough people to start it out. I had no idea that within 7 days we would have 300 members. I didn't.
I'm one of them. So.
Yeah, I didn't expect it to grow that fast. But now we're to the point where we're planning our first in-person event, and it's really kind of taken on a life of its own. It's nothing that I force. I really like it to grow organically and have people invite other business-minded people. But yeah, the root of it was I just saw a need to bring together businesses and business people from the area in a safe environment where they're not going to have to worry about spam or scammers, where we have a great admin team that oversees every post, darn near every comment. We don't big brother, but we like to make sure that the people who are in there for the reason that it was made, and that's to network and do business. And that's very important to me. It's become my baby of sorts. I monitor it often, while at the same time I've kind of taken an attitude where I want it to grow organically.
And if someone wants to find that, they can find it on Facebook. I know because that's where I found it. Anywhere else, or how should people, if they're interested in learning more about that, find out about it?
We're right now just on Facebook. We are working on a website. Again, we're about 60 days in. I just had no idea the growth was going to happen this fast. But if they are on Facebook, then they can just simply type in Cape Fear Business Networking Collective, and the group will come up. You will have to answer some questions. We want to make sure that you are from this area or doing business in this area, and that you're not spam or a bot or something like that, because we have, people doing all sorts of business in there. And to date, I think even within this short time, business exchanged within the group is topped over $20,000, and that's just off of referrals and ISOs and things like that. So it's growing. Yeah.
That's good. I mean, I'm a big believer in networking. That's how most of my business, and my going on 24 years in business, has come through networking. No matter what else I do, it all comes back to networking. And a lot of people approach networking wrong. They go in, they try to scam people, like you mentioned, which I'm glad you're focusing on that. I had a boss years ago who was a great guy, and he was a great salesman, and he was a horrible networker because he would go to a networking event, and within 5 minutes he was trying to force feed you a life insurance policy.
Oh, wow.
And he was a great salesman. He met his numbers and exceeded his numbers every month, but in terms of networking, he was trying to sell, not network. And it's really got to be about that relationship. The people who are going to get the most out of your group are the ones who come to it to give, and if you give, you'll get.
Absolutely. And yeah, I'm a mover first. I don't know how to sell anything. I go into people's homes and I go to networking events with, hey, this is what I can offer. After that, it's, what are you doing this weekend? Or,
Yeah,
how do you like this food? It's kind of nasty.
or it's really good. You should go here.
Yeah, exactly. I'm more into people. Again, I love people. I'm a people person. And if in the midst of getting to know you, we can do business, great. If not, That's fine too. It's okay. That's the great thing about networking is, okay, even if I don't get the business, I may make a friend. And down the road, yeah, there may be
Exactly.
some business, but just getting to know people and being new to this area, it's helped me make a lot of friends. I have a lot of friends. I have a lot of people
Absolutely.
who I call and check on now. They call and check on me, and we hang out. And, for somebody that's not used to having such a huge social circle, it's great. It really is.
I think a lot of people overcomplicate networking,
Yes.
and there's so many. You've got to work the room like this, and I think so much of that is misguided. To me, my simple definition of networking is making friends before you need them,
Yes.
and that's really all it is. And and that I'll give an example from my own life. I had a guy that I knew who he was when I lived in Raleigh, and this was back when I was with that same insurance company, and I happened to see him at a coffee shop. And I went up and started talking to him, and I mentioned to him what I do, and he said, "Well, look, I've been with the same financial guy for 20 years. I'm not going to change." I said, "That's fine. I understand that." But a few weeks later, he referred me my biggest client.
Wow.
Now, he never bought from me, but he respected the fact that I didn't push him, and he referred me somebody who was my largest client I had when I was with that insurance company.
Wow.
And even if that person doesn't buy from you, if you treat them right, they may send you somebody else.
Yes.
But if you don't, they won't.
Absolutely, and that's the thing. There's no way to work a room in networking. One thing I've learned in my little bit of time in the professional aspect of this business is people can sense the fake stuff,
Absolutely.
and they can smell it coming a mile away. I can smell it coming a mile away, and so I've learned to first of all be comfortable enough with myself to just be authentically me and know that the CJ that I'm presenting to all of you is enough. That I am somebody that you would like to get to know on a personal basis. And once I was okay with me, I was able to stand in front of people and just say, "Hey, how you doing? How's your day going? My name is CJ. What's your name?" And just start a conversation and let everything else just kind of happen. And if it does, it does. If it doesn't, that's fine too.
And as many people as live here, there's enough business with people who do appreciate you that you don't need to worry about the ones that don't.
Absolutely. There
And
is there's enough business to go around for everybody. I don't believe in competitors or rivals. We're all just trying to do a job and feed our families. Yeah.
exactly. And well, I think we've talked enough about networking. Is there anything else you want to say about your business before we move on to some lessons you might be able to share with people who are listening?
Sure. Southern Moving and Storage has been around for 10 years. It is owned by Macon Bullard and his wife Jamie. He is a great boss to work for. Tell you a story. My friend who referred me to Macon Bullard, I asked him before I had my initial meeting with him, tell me what kind of guy he is. And he said, Megan Bullard is the kind of guy this is my friend Josh Goggins speaking. He said, when I went to meet with Macon, he was at the warehouse washing the box trucks themselves, him and his son. And I said to myself, well, now, I'm pretty sure he can afford to get people to wash these trucks for him. But the fact that he's the kind of guy that is in there himself. And when I say he's at the office every day, he's there every day in, day out. He's treating it like the business is a week old.
Right.
He's dedicated. I've had at points, because things do arise on moves, I've called him on a Saturday and said, hey, I'm out of town and I have this going on a job site. He pulls up. This is the owner of the company. And so this is the kind of guy, I'm a big football fan. And, I'm like one of those old school Vince Lombardi kind of guys. He's the kind of guy you want to run through a brick wall for.
Right.
You really want to work hard for him. You really want to perform. So if I wanted to highlight anything, it would be, Southern and Macon Bullard and his family. It's a family-owned business, and they have welcomed me with open arms. And I like to think I'm just pulling my weight and helping out.
And the person you work for has so much to do with whether or not it's a good workplace. I've
Yes.
worked for people that I loved working for, and I've worked for some that I could not get out of there fast enough. And
We've all been there.
yeah, and some of those were good people. They were just terrible people to work for,
Yes.
if that makes sense. It wasn't that they were a bad person. were a different person at work than they were other places, and I didn't like the version of them at work. And
Absolutely.
so that's good, and it sounds like he's, the fact that he's there and leading by example. That's a big part of that. Is he doesn't just say it, he does it.
Yes. Yes.
And
Absolutely.
well, one thing I like to do is have our listeners be able to pick up any lessons you've learned or anything that you want to share that maybe you've learned over the time you've been in business. So, can you tell us something you've learned during your career that you wish you had known on day one?
The biggest thing I would say is that nothing you do in your job or in business is in vain. Put the work in, do the work. At some point in your career, it is going to pay off. It is going to shine through, and it's going to be that thing that elevates you to the next level. I mean, I never would have thought in a million years, starting out as a guy who just was riding shotgun with truckers, that I would be going in and doing estimates on homes that were $2 million, $3 million. And it started out just simply with applying work ethic. My grandma taught me as a young man. She said it doesn't really matter what you do in life. We're all going to have different lines of work. We're all going to have different careers. She simply said, grandson, just try to be the best. Just try to be the best. So when I was riding shotgun, I wanted to be the best shotgun box unloader I could. And now I carry the same attitude. I want to be the best estimator.
I think that is a great attitude, and I see so many people who almost feel like I'm too good for this little job. I need to go do the big job, but they got to do the little job before they get the big job.
You won't know what to do when you get to the big one, and that's another
Exactly.
thing. Yeah, you have to don't be shy with small beginnings. Life gradually, as you age and mature and you grow up, life is going to hand you what you need to go through it. It will.
And that thing that may seem so irrelevant could be the biggest lesson you learn that helps you in your career later. That's
Yes.
what you said about that is so simple but so important. You never know what kind of lesson you're going to learn from something that doesn't seem like it really matters in the grand scheme of things today.
Yes, absolutely.
And, or who you might meet from it, or who knows what kind of impact that little event could have down the road. Well, a similar question, but what advice would you give somebody who was starting out in their career, whether it's in moving or anything else? What advice would you give them?
I would say give yourself time, be patient, and understand balance, especially if you are someone that has a family. Know that the family is your backbone, not the job.
Absolutely.
A lot of us, we, and me included, have treated the job as the backbone and the family as maybe the accessory when everything goes wrong, when it's just the roughest day ever, when I've gotten 5 no's in a row, lost a $15,000 estimate to a competitor, it's my wife that picks me up. And family is the most important thing, and they can also be a motivation while at the same time a comfort. So I would say make sure you have balance. And whatever it is that you choose to do the work. I like to think of it as plant the seeds and just let God do the rest.
The balance thing, I see so many people who don't do that,
Yeah,
and then they find out the hard way how important the family was because it's gone,
yeah,
and
yeah.
that's unfortunate. But I think the balance is important, and being patient is important. I saw a great quote, and I can't remember exactly who said it, but it was something to the effect that if you network hard and build key contacts in strategic areas of business, in 30 years you'll become an overnight success.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's so
Yeah,
true. I mean, people expect instant results, and it doesn't work that way. It's you reap what you sow, and it takes time for what you sow to grow.
absolutely. And we're in such a insta, no pun intended, society now.
Absolutely.
A guy gets he gets an EIN number on Tuesday and he wants to be a millionaire on Friday. It doesn't work like that.
One of my first clients, we bought some ads in a newspaper. This was 30 years ago, and we bought the ads on a Monday, and his spouse was so upset because we hadn't gotten 100 calls by lunch. On day one
Yeah.
of the first ad being out there, I'm like, it does not work that
No,
way.
not at all.
You've got to. Have you ever read the book Guerrilla Marketing?
No, I haven't.
it's a really good book. It's probably 50 years old, but he talks about how the first time somebody sees the ad, they don't see it,
Hmm.
and about the 20th time they buy it,
Hmm.
and it's really well articulated how many times you have to see that piece of communication to get it. I think it's so true in so many areas that you've got to give things time to work. So,
Yes, absolutely.
well, I'm going to ask one more personal question to close it out. What kind of TV shows, movies, etc., do you like to listen to when you're on your downtime or watch?
Yeah, I have recently gotten back into Star Wars. I have the app called Disney Plus. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. Okay, yeah, I have this app,
Well, I watch it as well. I'm a big Star Wars fan
and
too.
I began watching it in its proper order. I'm watching it now in its sequenced order. The movies, not all of the shows, just the
Right.
movies. And I'm now getting, I guess, as an older adult, getting a much better understanding and perspective on the story itself. Where you grow up and you just hate Darth Vader. Well, now you kind of understand a little where Darth Vader was coming from. And
Yeah, exactly.
now you see the Force versus the dark side. Not to get too nerdy here, but
Well, I could go right there with you.
yeah,
So
just I mean, understanding the Force. There's a very thin line between the Force and the dark side, and
I'm gonna get something off this shelf while you're
yeah,
talking to show you
and
here.
it's been quite an experience just getting to watch these movies over again. And I mean, I think it's one of the best outside of The Godfather. I think it's one of the best movie series that is out or that has come out. It's wonderful. I think the story has been consistent. How he took movies that started out. I think we started out with episode 4 or 5
Four, yeah.
four, and he was able to go and use modern technology, create episodes 1 through 3, and everything ties right in. I mean, that transition from episode 3 to episode 4 is flawless. It's great.
And the Clone Wars and all of that.
Yeah,
I don't know if you watched all the. I mean, the Clone Wars I didn't watch for a long time because I thought animated is for kids, and I'm so glad I eventually watched it.
yeah, yeah. Clone Wars.
This is on my shelf behind me.
Wow. Okay.
I ordered that online a while back,
Awesome. Awesome.
and I think I've actually read every page of every one of those.
Yeah. So along with those, anybody that knows me, my family, I know him to death. I'm a huge Walking Dead fan. I've followed the franchise since the comic books. I watch now the spinoffs. The original show is done. Well, done for now, I believe. Outside of that, I'm a huge wrestling fan. It's WrestleMania week, So, yeah, I'm a nerd.
Well, going back to Star Wars, did you watch Andor?
I didn't, not yet. I have, as far as shows, I've watched Mandalorian, obviously, Boba Fett, and I really didn't understand Boba Fett until I watched the full sequence of the Star Wars movies. Now, even getting an understanding of who Boba Fett was, and
Right.
who his father was, for that matter. Yeah.
The Boba Fett one was probably my least favorite of the shows, but Andor season 2 starts next week. I would highly recommend go back and watch season 1 and then watch season 2.
Okay.
It leads right into the beginning of Rogue One.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, we can talk about Star Wars for another hour, so we don't need to
Yes, we
bore
could.
all the
Yes, we
listeners
could.
with that. But was there anything else you'd like to share before we wrap it up?
If I could just give anybody that doesn't know me that would like to get to know me, find me on Facebook, CJ Jones. I am an estimator with Southern Moving and Storage. I can be reached at 910-617-0296. Again, 16 years in the business, 800,000 miles clocked, 1,000 moves. Makes me sound really old when I say all of that.
That is a lot of moves.
It is a lot of moves, but moving is my passion. It's not even a career; it's a passion. I just love seeing people go through different transitions of life. It's been an honor. It's been an honor being on the show, and I just thank you for having me.
Well, thank you. And again, CJ Jones with Southern Moving and Storage. And thank you to everyone who's watching this and this will be posted in a couple of weeks. We're about 3 weeks ahead of schedule. And for anyone who wants to follow the podcast, please visit capefearbusiness.com. We're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and just about anywhere else you want to listen to a podcast. And we appreciate you tuning in, and we hope you'll be back next week. Thank you.